Hello everyone, Gaye DeRusso with the Majestic Rider. So today we're on Freedom. He's a 6-year-old walking horse on the trotty side, and he came back in for resale. So I sold this horse when he was around 4 years old, and I pretty much did everything except saddle break him. So he had very nice gaits, his canter was good and all that, and it just didn't work out for the person who bought him, and that's okay, because that, sometimes that happens. You don't know if it's a good fit until you try sometimes, and I'm always happy to take my horses back. It's not hard for me to find them new homes, and it's not hard for me to tune them back up because they know everything. So I just have to kind of what I call reboot them. I just go through the basics and get everything back together again. Never had a horse come back better than it left. That tells you anything. So I always have to retrain them and make sure that they are still who they used to be. So there's the I don't think I came up this way. So he hasn't come this way, and the scarecrow's behind the trees, which I know. And that's why he just kind of was like, I'm not going that way. And I was like, yeah, you are. So remember, shorten your reins, sit back, keep your hands wide. So if he turns, the thing's on the left, he's most likely going to go to the right. So I want to be ready with my left rein, and I want to keep my right rein and right leg against him. Let him look, to block him. So you can block them from spinning if you're ready, but if I just came up on a loose rein, that wouldn't have been good. And he's a young horse, even though he's trained, he's young, so you just got to be ready to help him. Okay, so with him, he came, see where his head is? It's way too high, so it's up at my chest level. So we want to bring his head down more and get him to engage his back end and stronger in his gaits again and get his gaits correct. So for some people, it's hard to get the horse's head down, even though the horse knows how to do it. You have to have the right pressure, and in the beginning you might have to hold a little bit tighter than you think till the horse understands. And you got to block the horse, because when you put pressure on the bit, if it doesn't want to put its head down, it puts it up, and then it usually goes right or left. And so you got to block it and keep it straight, so the only way it can get away from the pressure is not going sideways, but to put its head down. So now his head's down pretty good, but he's looking around, and birds and stuff always fly out of these farm fields. So we're just going to go a little slow to start, and then we'll speed up. So if he's not paying attention, like he's looking around a little bit, I'm just going to slide the bit and get his attention. So what I'm trying to do, I'm just walking up this hill slow, and I'm just making him engage his back end. Oh, the sprinklers are on. Now I know why you're a little nervous. Right by the sprinklers. And so we're going to try and keep his head down the whole time. He's going to keep trying to pick it back up. So even though I had trained him, whatever somebody before me lets them do, that's of course what the horse is going to do. So he's like, why can't I pick it up and look all around? I'm like, no, once your head down, I want you to pay attention, because we're at work now. So you got to pay attention to what I'm asking you. You're not in control, okay? Now some of you might be like, that's mean. Well, when the horse is in control, they make the best decisions for us. They make great decisions for them, but that might be turning and running away from the scary object. So I want to be in charge, because I want to be the one who picks what we do if something scary happens, okay? And again, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so we're going to keep his head down. Now I can tell he's just a little bit nervous, not bad, but he hasn't been on these trails much. I've only been out here once or twice so far with him. So wherever we go, I'm working on keeping his head down. And again, now that we're up the hill, we'll do a little flat walk. Remember, your flat walk is not super fast. You just should feel back and forth in the saddle, but it should still feel like a walk. It shouldn't feel like a different gait that you're doing. Okay, it feels like a walk, just a faster walk. And now we're going through the skinny part, so if he wants to put his head down, I'll let him. And I just want to keep him straight, because otherwise they get hung up on the walls. Now, I loosened up a little bit, and he immediately put his head up. And so the horses tell me how the people have been riding them. So I know that he's been going with his head up too much. And so I'm going to have to be on his case for a while to keep his head down, because he has to know But the pressure only gets released when it's down, not when it's up. But right now he thinks, well, I'll bring it up because that releases the pressure. Okay, so it's just retraining. And out here, there's lots of things to distract him, so I might have to put more pressure on him to get his head down. Okay? So overall, this is a very nice horse. He's on the trotty side, so when I gate him, again, you'll hear me say you bring their head up a little bit if they're on the trotty side, but we don't want to bring it up too much. He actually has very good gaits. With a lot of the trotty walking horses, I just have their head right at the horn level, and they do just fine there. So it doesn't have to be way up. It just can't be way down. So this is our flat walk. And you'll see his head shaking. Once in a while, you'll see him try to bring his head up, and when he does that, I close my hands. I make very tight fists. I don't pull back. I just hold, wait for him to bring it down, then I open the fingers slightly. I do not open my fingers all the way straight because that's too big of a release at this point for him, and he would immediately pick his head back up, and then I would immediately make a fist. And then if you open your fingers, it immediately take his head back up. So I want him to learn, no, just keep your head down. So I'm going to keep more contact. Now there's a helicopter coming by, and he's the one I rode up to the fire. So he might be like, hey, let's look. It's actually a plane, not a helicopter. Okay. So we're going to keep this head down the whole time till he gets back in the habit of keeping his head down so we don't have to have as much pressure on him. So as he's going, I'm just working on straightness. He is a little bit crooked. That means he's kind of been wobbling around on the trails or, you know, just following the path. But you want to keep your own horse straight. You don't want the path to keep your horse straight. Okay, so you're riding him right in between your two hands and your two legs, just like they're a bike. You wouldn't let your bike wobble all over the trail, so don't let your horse wobble all over the trail. Okay, now he's pulling a little bit, so I'm going to hold harder. And if he doesn't give, I'm going to slide the bit, which I did. I squeezed with one hand, and then I squeezed with the other. And then I squeezed with one hand, and then the other. So I don't want him to lean on the bit either. If they come back and they're pulling or leaning on the bit, I usually know that the person was balancing off their mouth or the person was nervous and hanging on the horse. Okay? And that just makes this situation worse in both cases. You know, if it's your balance, you got to work on your balance and get that to be really good. If it's you're hanging on the horse because you're scared, you got to learn to give and take and give the horse exercises. If you just hold them, they just pull harder and want to get away from you more. So now we're going to stop. He's kind of looking around. Now watch, if I let go, where's his head? It's way up in the air. He's looking ahead of himself, and that's fine. So I don't mind right now because I told him it's okay. I got my hands forward. You can look around and see what's up there. And remember, with their vision, when their head's up versus when it's down, he sees different. Okay? Now he's decided, let's go back. And I'm like, no, I guess we'll go on then. That's normal with young horses, especially when they're alone. Like, well, I'm a little worried about this. Can I go home? And it's just like you're telling your child, no, honey, you can't. You can't go home. We're going to do this. So that's all you're telling your horse is, nope, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. We're okay. And that's why when you're on a young horse, you don't want to ride like this because they know you're out to lunch. And then they're wobbling all over the place, right? So his head's down, you might think, well, that's fine. Now he's looking all over, and he's going to find something to spook at sooner or later. Right? And he's not paying any attention to me. So they can do that when I'm not riding them. I'm hand walking them, sure. But when I'm on them, no, they got to pay attention. Okay, so now we're going to walk a little faster. We're in the sand. That makes him more trotty. Now, I don't want him to go too fast up this either because he kind of jumps in his gaits instead of slowly going through them. That usually means they were going too slow and then going too fast. So his head's a little high, so I'm sliding the bit because he's pulling a little bit. He's like, I'm not going to bring it down. So I was thinking, you are. Then I'm making him drive with his back end, so we're not going very fast up this hill, are we? Because this is a workout. I'm trying to get him stronger and get his back end engaged. So if he's not paying attention, I'm sliding the bit across his tongue saying, hey, get back here. Where's your brain? Stay with me. He's looking off in the bushes because there probably is either a bobcat or deer or something down there, but that's okay. You got to get their mind to stay with you and not with that other thing. Okay? So now his head's up, so we're holding. And with him, we want his head down, but his neck and back relaxed. So he sometimes tucks his head down, but it's not relaxed. That's better. Okay? Because he has a better gait when his back is kind of neutral and relaxed. So the gaited horses, when they're trotty, it's a little bit different depending on how the horses move. But the trotty, like walking horses, I'll have their heads a little higher in the beginning, and then this is about where I ride them. But if it's a trotty, like rocky, their gaits are just different. So a lot of times I have to have their head a little bit higher than this. It's more up chest level. So depends what works for your horse. You just try different things and you try to find that sweet spot that works for them, and that's where you try to position them before you start your gait. Okay, so now we're going downhill. Remember, going downhill makes your trotty horses a little bit more lateral and gets them swinging a little bit more. He's doing quite good for a young horse out here by himself. Now his canter out here, fast, and in the arena, you know, I don't know if the owner had an arena, is not so good. So it doesn't feel like it was practiced in the arena. It should be pretty well finished canter now. But his canter out here is a little fast and not as collected as I would like, because I like a nice slow canter. So with him, when we canter, we're going to try to practice cantering and walking, and just a couple of steps. So we got a hill here, so let's ask for the canter. So half all chip the weight leg, canter. Now he kind of put in a couple trot steps, and then he picked it up, and then it was so-so. He kind of fell out of it. That's okay. It's better than running fast. We just want to start working on it. And we got lots of hills out here that we can work on. And remember, you also, in time, want to work on a canter step here and there, so they just get that canter departure really good. So you can work on it in the arena, but you also work on it on the trail. Now again, he's just trying to look around, so I just slid the bit again. But you'll see, he might be trying to look around. I'm keeping his head straight on me. I'm not letting him look all over the place. You let them look all over the place, they can get trippy. They can be not as sure-footed. And then their gaits usually aren't as good either. Now when we were up here last time, the piles were in different places. So he's doing fine with the fact that it changed, because some horses notice every change and freak out. We're going by these piles. We don't have a big area here, so keep your left rein and left leg right on that horse, or I hold my spur on him, because I'm like, you are not going off that side. And then your right rein stays kind of open. So remember, nobody's around to stay in the middle of the trail when you have drop-offs. Otherwise, I always try to stay on the high side or where there's things. If you leave it up to the horse, they will stay right on the edge of that cliff, because they are more than willing to jump off the side to get away from something. The mountain lions are usually higher, you know, so they'd usually be on the high side, like up in the trees or something. Like if I had a high side with a hill on the left and a drop off on the right, the horse usually wants to go on the right. Now this is all bumpy, so not a good place to canter, but we might get one step. Ready? Canter. And we got no steps. That's okay. Let's just try again. So when there's a high side, that's where I try to stay by. The horse wants to go where it can jump off, so if, you know, a mountain lion comes, and somebody's up there, so we'll turn around here. If there's a mountain lion, it can jump off the side, so that's why if you leave it just up to your horse, it will usually go to the low side because it's ready to leave. So you want to protect yourself and keep it there. So you want a boy, you want to tell the horse, no, you have to stay closer to the hillside because I don't want you to jump off. But That's why if you notice when you're riding your horse, it always goes towards the edge of the trail, right? You're like, why does it do that? Because it's always ready. It's preparing to get the hell out of there in case something happens. Okay. So we turned around, so he did very well with that out and back trail. Now we're trying to go slow. We want to keep him on his back end. Now, can he go down this hill faster? Sure he can. But it's harder to go slower. And we want to build strength, so we want to go slow for now. And there's a bunch of bumps in the trail, so if I go fast, he might catch a toe, and then we could fall down. He's not a trippy horse since he's on the trotty side. He pays pretty good attention. But again, he's still a young horse. It's not like he has 10 years under his belt. Okay? He has 6 and only saddle broke at like 3.5. So that's just like 3 years. Okay, so now if you look at this, with those piles, that would be my high side and my drop off is on the right. So what am I going to do? Get his attention because he's looking around. Right rein against him, right spur right against him, and I'm going to go right next to this part right here. Even bump into those hills, I don't care as long as I stay away from the drop off. Now he's gaiting pretty well. But again, it's all about us controlling the speed, not the horse just taking us for the speed. No matter what you're doing, trail riding, endurance, arena work, you want to be able to control the speed, not just let them control the speed. Remember, all these different terrains, too, change how your horse goes. So if it gets deep, it makes a trotty horse trottier. That's like sand. If it's flat, not much footing, that's where my trotty horse is probably going to gait better. And your pacey horse is going to gait better in the sand or the mud or the rocks because it helps separate their legs. So you're always being aware of all that. Oh, so he stopped pretty well, but I want to back him up a little bit. Okay. Oh boy. So he stayed nice and calm. Got his head down. Now I loosened up because I scratched my face, and what happened? His head came right up. So I'm having to ride with contact to keep him straight and to keep his head down until this becomes a habit again. Right now it's not a habit. When you buy horses from people, it's always good to ask if I ever have to sell him, will you take this horse back? Because some people will and some people won't. And I'm always happy to take my horses back. I love them, and that's the hardest part of selling them. So if it's not working out, sure, I want them to come back because I want to find them the right home, and I can tune them up and make them better before they go again. And some things just, sometimes things just don't work out. You got medical problems, or you bought a gaited horse and you didn't understand how much work it was, and you don't want to deal with it, or maybe you don't like its gaits, or the footing you're riding on is too difficult for that horse. There are many things that can come up. So, and sometimes you're just not a match. Like the horse is fine with the other people, but it's a spook with you. Or the horse was fine with the other people, but it's too lazy with you, and you can't get it better. And you, of course, contacted a trainer to help you before you gave up, and it's just not working. And some people, they don't want to learn to ride a different way. They don't want to take lessons, and it's not the horse's fault. It's just they're giving the horse wrong signals, doing wrong things, and so it doesn't work out. But you can always check with the seller to see, and give the seller a chance to buy the horse back. When I buy the horse back, I never buy it for what I sell it for, and people don't understand that, so I'm going to explain it. So when you buy a car, and then you want to upgrade or something, right? You bring the car back. Do they give you the same price for the car? No, they never do. Because the car's older, you've done things to it, it has more mileage on it. And they're not going to be able to sell it for as much. Okay? But they always sell it for more than you sold it back to them, but that's because they detailed it, cleaned it up, did all the maintenance, put new tires on, etc. And that takes money. And then they have to make a profit, otherwise they would never be able to sell cars. They would just go out of business. Okay? Because that's the whole point of business, is to pay your employees and cover everything and maybe make a little bit of money on top, okay, so you can enjoy your life. So when I buy the horses back, I always buy them back for less, and people don't understand that. They're like, I've had him 5 years and now he's worth more. No, he's not. Usually you've taken training off, you've given him some bad habits, because I'm very strict with horses, and so I have to fix all that. And then maybe you didn't have a good shoer, or maybe you didn't do enough of the vet care. When they sell, they're up to date on everything, but when they come back, they always aren't. Okay? So maybe you had them barefoot and I need them with shoes, so I got to pay for shoes. Then I got to put my time in training, so I need to get paid for that. I got to feed the horse, I got to board the horse. And if it's really messed up, well, it may take many months for me to fix that horse. So that's why a lot of sellers will buy the horses back if they're good sellers, but they're not going to pay the same price because they're going to have to put the work, the time in. They also have to advertise, show the horse to people, and that, people, is a lot of work. So if you don't want to do that, then you sell it on your own, and you can see how difficult and annoying it is selling horses. But I always like to get mine back if possible, and smart people understand why I have to, you know, do it at less of a price, because I have to cover everything. I always check with the seller to see if they want the horse back, give them that chance. Now he's pulling just a little, so I'm going to whoop and I'm going to back him up. Nobody's with me. If somebody was with me, I'd say, hey, I'm going to stop and back up, okay? Because I want him to stop pulling. I don't want him just to be leaning on the bit as we're walking. You might say, well, because you're riding with contact, that's why he's leaning. He's leaning because he's used to having his head and pulling on the bit some. Otherwise he wouldn't lean. So he's just got to learn it's different now. You're only getting a release. You got your head down and you're not pulling. Alright. Now we're headed towards home, but I want to practice his canter, so I'm going to ask him for one step and he's probably not going to get it. But we'll see. So we're going uphill a little bit. I'm going to turn him sideways, half halt. Right leg canter. Good boy. Walk. Now he's already starting to pull as I cantered off. Okay? They should never be pulling when they're cantering. Okay? You want the light to give to you. Now here's another tiny incline. Let's see if you can do it here. Canter. Good boy. Now back to a walk. Now let's try the other lead. I think he only cantered on one lead. Canter. Nope. Now we're going to back up. Now I don't have room anymore. It's going downhill. It's not much, but it's downhill enough that that's not going to help him get his canter. Horses don't canter downhill really well unless they're very balanced. So I'm not going to do it here. I'm just going to wait. So this goes uphill a little bit. Let's turn him sideways. Canter. Nope. Now he didn't get it, did he? I'm all alone. This is the benefit of being alone. So now I can try it again. Canter. Nope. He didn't understand. It's not his fault. Canter. No, kind of did, kind of didn't. But I'll take it. Good boy. So when you ride your horse on trail, a lot of people just canter on one lead, and I'm trying for the other lead. And that is what happens. You should practice cantering on both leads. And then you make the horse stronger and they can get both leads, and then their endurance is better because they can canter on either one. But when you only canter on one lead, guess what? Then they forget that other lead. So we're going to have to work on that in the arena when we get back. Now you might hear him chomping on the bit. It's okay, he's a little nervous. Who wouldn't be? Oh, here he comes. Avalo's coming up here. That's another guy on another horse. So I saw him, and I'm just letting him stop and see him because I don't want to run into him on the turn. Hi!
Hello. You want to come up, you want to come down?
Oh, sure. Oh, come down. Is he okay? Okay. Yeah, running around helps.
Yeah.
Gets it all out. Thanks.
Different horses, I know.
Alright, now I know as he goes up that hill, if he goes fast, that might upset my horse. So I'm sliding a bit, sitting back and breathing. Okay? Because sometimes just they hear that other horse go away, and if it goes away fast, they're like, I should be scared. He's running away, so that means something's chasing him. So you're always ready to do something with your horse. Now he just rooted on the bit. He just pulled down, And I just slid the bit pretty hard across his tongue and kind of jabbed my rein up. Like, don't do that. Because if you do it, it's not going to be so comfortable for you. They test everybody to see, can I yank the reins out of your hands? And if you let them get away with it, they'll do it over and over, and then it becomes worse and worse. So immediately you want to catch them and be like, no, don't you dare do that. Now, it might be because you're hanging on them or something, but maybe you have to for that situation you're in. So tough cookies, right? So he's pulling on me again, so whoa, I'm going to back up. Now, you wouldn't do this to a horse that you think might rear up or was getting real antsy, because if you stop, see, he just rooted on the bit again. Yep. And now he's complaining. Hear him? But I got after him. I really kind of pulled on the bit, like, don't you dare do that, because I don't want him to think it's okay. So you got to make it uncomfortable enough that they understand. It's the same thing somebody asked me, like, how do you make the horse go? You won't listen to me. You might have to, I always say, open the gates of hell or unleash the devil dogs, you know. You got to really get after him. You might have to put so much pressure on that horse that people can't believe what you're doing. But you got to get him to respect you and understand if you don't go, you don't want to stay here, because everything's going to burst into flames. It's going to be that scary. So when I say go, you better go. And that's usually a horse that has disrespected people, is lazy and stubborn, and thinks, well, I'll just scare them. I'll just kick out, or I'll give a little buck, and you know, that'll scare them, and then they won't make me go. You're like, you want to buck? I'll show you what to buck over. But always do it at home first. Do it where you're safe. A round pen is a good place to make a horse go forward, because you don't have to steer. You can just hang on to the horn or the saddle. And if it won't go, you get after it, or have someone in there in the ground flagging the horse to help it move when you ask it to go. Okay? But if you don't do those things, that horse is going to try to intimidate you, because it would rather spend its time doing that than just going forward. Now he's pulling again, and we're going downhill, so this is good for stifles. Let's back up the hill. How do you like those? He's like, what? That wasn't very fun. Okay, now he's better. Now he's not pulling. But if he keeps pulling or yanking on, this hill's great. I'll just keep stopping and backing up it. Oh, now I remember the story. So this is about lazy horses. So these people at my barn had a lazy horse. It was not gaited. It was thoroughbred, and they could not get her to move. So we do everything. We beat her up. We hit her with the stick, and they really did. They said she won't go. And I said, oh, let's get her to go. So I said, let's do it from the ground first, because I always like doing things from the ground so we can really get after the horse. And I said, we're going to ask her to go, and when she doesn't go, you're going to run after her with that whip. And when she kicks out and she still won't go, I got this jar with quarters in it. I'm going to shake it and scare the heck out of her. And the owner's like, what? I said, you'll see. So use something that you know would probably spook the horse and make it go forward. And so we ask the horse to go, so we give it the clue, like trot, you know, and then it won't go, so cluck, 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 won't go. She chases after it, won't go. Then I took that thing out and shook it, and that horse took off like a firecracker. Now we repeated it over and over again until she understood when we asked it to go, the next thing came. He's pulling, so I'm backing up, was the stick, and if he didn't go after that, then the quarters came out and shook and scared her. So we did it over and over again, and then I said, now we're going to do it under saddle. So you have the choice. I'll get on the horse and you can shake the quarters, or if you want to learn how to do this, you get on and hang on and I'll shake the quarters. So she said, no, I want to do this. She thought it was super fun. And she couldn't believe how much the horse was actually moving. So she got on. I said, hold on to that horn. We put her in a western saddle. I asked her to go. She won't go. She was kicking out, doing all sorts of stuff. And then I asked her to go with the whip. She wouldn't do. And then I shook that thing with the quarters in it. What do you know? She went. So we just kept repeating it. And then when we got her good in there, we went in the arena and we did it at a time no one else would be in there, to make sure if we shook the quarters, we weren't going to spook anybody else's horses. And we got her going good in there. And then after that, we did enough that if she just gave a little cluck, guess what? That horse woke up and went. So it doesn't mean you won't have her have to go back in the round pen and redo it. You might. But you want to find something that you know makes that horse move. So if you know it spooks at something like a flag or a dog or whatever, that's what you use to help you. It'll desensitize them to it, so you'll get two things done. But in the meantime, you'll get it going forward. So you kind of got to use your head, think about things. And again, you're trying to make it comfortable for the horse. And the other thing is, when she went, we didn't, chase her around 20 times. She went one circle fast, we stopped, and she got a little treat, and she got some rest. And so we rewarded her, he's pulling, for doing the right thing. And when she didn't do the right thing, then we made her go forward. So you're trying to make a new association for the horse. Like, being lazy is not the good part. You're not going to get any relief from that. The good part is if you go forward, then I'll give you rest. Okay, so we're getting him used to new things, and there's little puppies up here in this cage. So let's go by the puppies and see what he does. So I expect if he spooks, the cage is on the right, he's going to go left. So my left rein and left leg is against him. And he's not seeming to care. Hi, puppies. Hi. Yeah. They are cute. I don't know if you can see them. So this is great. It's great that they're fighting. It's great that they're jumping around, because you want to get your horse used to everything. And you want to get them used to it where you're safe. Alright. Alright. So now we're going to go in the arena and canter. Let's go this way. I didn't walk around the barn. I can't remember if I walked them around the barn. So now the dogs are following us. Hi, doggies. And we want to take them around the barn. You want to take your horse or young horse around everything, especially at home. A lot of people don't ride at home. Doesn't matter if you don't have arena. Ride around your house, ride around your barn, ride around the streets. Get it used to everything that you possibly can. Okay, so he's not pulling anymore. His head's a little high, so we'll bring it down a little bit. So holding. That's better. I'm going to release. He's looking at this open door, and a lot of horses do. That's okay. He's still looking left. You might think he's looking right. So you want to look in there? Good boy. So they don't see light to dark very well, so who knows what he sees right now. It might be all busy. But he could smell it, and he did go right up to it for me. Good boy. Okay, so now we're going to walk around. So I immediately see his head. We're going to immediately put pressure and bring it back down. And if he's ignoring us, which he is right now, because he's busy, something else is making him nervous, I'm sliding the bit. And then I just got after him a little bit with my leg. Yeah, so I have not ridden him around here because he's a little spooky. So that's okay. All of them are in the beginning because there's so much weird stuff. And so many different smells, the goats and chickens, and dogs and crates and all sorts of stuff. So his head's still up. I'm going to stop and let him look. Oh. And then we'll walk off in a couple of minutes. Boy. So what I'm going to do is walk him around here until he's pretty relaxed with everything, and that might take a while, and then I'm going to do it every day so he gets used to everything. Everybody hates this round pen. Oh boy. So see, now he's back to normal and calm. So it's just the area that he's in, and the only way to get them better and get them over stuff is to do it over and over again. And if you're scared, hand walk them. Once you can hand walk them by all the stuff, both directions, do both directions on the ground, then you can ride them. Okay? So much better going by that time. Now his head's down, so he's more relaxed. But, all these new situations for the horses, especially when they're young, it's hard. Some horses are braver than others, and so you got to give them time. And if you started getting really loony or jumping around, I would just get off and walk them. No big deal. Okay, great horses are made in years, not days. So, trying to give them a chance and help them get through things. So that was better. So now I'm going to go around again, and then I'll put you back on. So I only ran around once without the camera on. So see, he's much more relaxed now. Now he's just doing a regular trail walk. So now I know I don't have to go around this too many more times. So I'm still keeping his head down. He's not pulling anymore. He's not as nervous. But you got to get them all used to the situation, prepare them. So every day I'm going to walk around this till he gets used to going by the camper, the truck, people opening the doors, all that stuff. Now if they get fast, I slide the bit across their tongue. So that means I squeeze with one hand and then the other. And if you do it lightly, that just kind of massages it across their tongue. Doesn't bother them. And it helps them to relax and get their head down. But if I do it harder, that's okay. It was just sneeze. Oh, it's that little miniature horse. The little miniature horse is a roan, so who knows if he saw it because it blends in with the gravel right there. Okay? Alright, so we're going to stop and we're going to turn around. So if they're being fast and you can't do anything, you know, you're on a single track, the only thing you can do is slide that bit. But you can do it a little bit hard, not so hard you make them rear up or anything. Practice it at home first. And see, now I turn, everything's different. All looks different. Just like when you go on the trail and you then do it backwards and you're like, we're lost. It's because things look different the other way. So now his head's up and I'm holding, but he's leaning, so I'm sliding across the bit. When you slide the bit across their tongue, they can't grab it and they can't lean on it usually. But sometimes you have to do it pretty hard if they're amped up. Now if they're being bad, like when we take this turn and it heads towards the stall a little bit, if he starts speeding up, I'm going to do it a little quicker and a little harder because I'm trying to make it uncomfortable. Like if you speed up, this happens. If you slow down, it goes away. And you have to do it over and over again until they figure out, if I just walk slow, she stops pulling that thing in my mouth. But sometimes that's all you have. You know, you don't have room on the trail or anything else, but you can slide the bit. And that's why it's nice if your bit is, you know, has a mouthpiece that has independent shanks, because it'll give you usually more things than you can do than a solid mouthpiece. Because when you pull on one rein on that, it just tilts it in their mouth. With this, even though it's not a snaffle, you can control it like a snaffle because it has the independent rein. So he's a little speedy. Let's stop and back up. Stand here for a minute. So I do that a lot when they want to go fast somewhere. I was like, well, let's just stand here since you want to run away from it. So you're usually trying to do the opposite of what they are trying to do. So you associate them going faster with you making them stop. You associate them going faster with you sliding that bit a little bit across their tongue to make it uncomfortable. Not to hurt them, just to make it uncomfortable. And you slide across their tongue so they can't grab that bit. Now he's much better. So this is the second time going around. Much better. So see, I don't want to walk around just once. I want to be like, this is just an arena. Now his head's up, so we're going to bring it back down. So there I just put light pressure on him, so he's getting better. This is what you get to see what I do with the horses. But see, I'm spending a lot of time with him. So this doesn't just take an hour. This, sometimes takes a couple hours for me to go through, and that doesn't even include grooming them, bathing them, and all of that as well. Or preparing them, like turning them out and lunging them. So spend a lot of time getting them ready and then a lot of time working with them. Now we got just a little fast, not bad, and I know why. Well, all the horses are scared here. It's not just him. There's a weird trash can right there. And why is the lawnmower up on that thing? Hell if I know, Fredo. Hell if I know. But now he's pretty Good. No, it was a bird, so let's go over there. So he got a little jumpy, so I'm like, you cannot run away from things. So now we stand here for a minute. But see, this is why I like to test them and take them through everything. So if they're spooking at things that they never used to spook at, then I know the person might have been nervous or out to lunch, and so the horse lost their confidence in them, and now the horse lost some confidence. So I want to build that confidence back up before they go to the next person. So when I know they weren't scared of these things, and I know the horse, I don't forget them, at least not now. I know who they were, and I know how to build them back up and get their confidence back. Very cold a little bit, so guess what? Or associate pulling with something else. Yeah, that dog kind of snuck up on us. And so see, I'm not taking the horse away from it. He's justified in the spook. That thing shot out. He didn't know what it was. It could have been a killer Jack Russell. And they are coming out the dog door. And I don't think Freedom's ever seen a dog door, so that's okay. But I'm not letting them go from here. Okay? I want them to see that they're dogs and that it's okay. You saw he's not afraid of puppies, so he's not afraid of dogs. He's just afraid of animals shooting out of something like a cave and coming to attack us. So now you see my reins are totally loose. I know there's only 2 dogs here, so I know another one's not coming out. Okay. Now I'm going to walk away, and guess what? I'm going back where I came, and I'm walking back towards that. Now they're behind me. And if he's bad, I might do this 20 times. Just walking towards the dogs, having the dogs come at us, and then us walking away. Because these dogs are going to chase us when we go by every day. So we'll see. She's a troublemaker. Here she comes. And it's fun for me. I like chasing the dogs. Okay, so let's go away, and we'll come back and do it again. If I do it a bunch of times, he'll see all the different angles and all the things that she does to try to scare us. She's like, I'm going back in the house. Gaye, you're a loon. Now, they're going back in the house, but they could shoot out that thing in a second. Good job. But see how now he's back to calm. He's not amped up. I didn't let him run away from it. I showed him what it was and said not to worry, but if you are scared, we'll do it 1,000 times until you're not scared anymore. Okay, so now we're still not finished. We're going in the arena to work on his canter. And you know, that spook that you saw, this is a 6-year-old horse. That's why I say that, you know, they're still babies. It's not a big deal. You know, all horses can spook. Now, his worst direction is to the right. You probably didn't canter to the right, so that's where always go the worst direction first. I'm going to establish my circle first, and then we'll start. He's a little fast, but everything on the left is a little scary right now. That farm scares all the new horses. So, if you're getting a young horse, you just got to know, even if it's totally solid, it doesn't seem spooky at all. It can do those things, and when they do it, it can be quicker because they're more athletic. They don't have any pain. They're not old. You got to be aware of it. Okay, so our thing is to get his canter departure better, to get some canter steps, and then go back to a walk. Because we don't want him going fast, and we don't want him pulling, and that's what he was kind of doing. Okay, so I'm going to half halt, shift my weight to the left, and then I'm going to ask him. Canter. Now he trotted. Nope. Oh, he almost got it, but I was like, no, you know what? I know. You used to know how to do it, so let's not accept that. Okay, now we're going to try it again. Half halt, shift my weight. Canter. Now he got it. Walk. And he popped his lead, but that's normal. That means he swapped his lead in the back. Good boy. And it doesn't feel good. It feels like a buck. It's not a buck. But he's doing it because he's off balance, and that's because he hasn't been cantering in the arena. Okay, let's try it again. So half halt, shift the weight. canter. Good boy, walk. Now I'm going to pull hard because he's pulling. And then I'm going to go back to a walk. So I only want a couple steps. I don't want a lot of steps because then if he gets off balance, he's going to speed up. And I know if I just canter walk a bunch of times, his canter is going to come back. Canter. Oh, he popped his lead again. He's pulling on the bit. Now, I got to teach him. It's not his fault. The only reason he's pulling on the bit is usually somebody pulled on them or they balanced off of the horse's mouth. Okay? Let's try a little different spot though. So, but I have to teach him, no, you cannot pull anymore. Okay, so we're going to try it again. Half halt, shift weight, canter. Kind of pump a little bit. Walk. Now he cantered, but he's pulling. You'll see I'm not being very nice about it. He's pulling, so I'm backing him up each time. And the reason he's losing his lead in the back, he's off balance, and it's going around the turn. Happens with a lot of the walking horses. You go around the turn, their back end swings out, and so they swap their legs to catch themselves. He's pulling, so I'm going to back up. So that's a normal thing, which a lot of vets think they're off. It's not. They just have to learn how to hold their hind quarter underneath themselves to hold that canter. And that usually means staying in circles and going slow. Okay. Canter. Oh boy, walk. Good job. So much better. Now he's pulling, so I'm sliding the bit. Sliding the bit. Now we just go back to walking. Now we let go of the bit, so now my fingers are open. I just go back to walking. Now when he's cantering with his head too high. And what does a high head do on a trotty horse? It makes him more lateral. And for the canter, I need the horse to be a little bit more diagonal. So in time, I want to bring his head down slightly because the canter will be better. But you cannot do it all at the same time. Not when I just, got him back and then we're trying to work on it. Okay, so we walked around once. Now we're going to go to the canter again. So half halt, shift by weight, left leg canter. Oh boy, walk. So that time, I kind of pumped to get the canter. He got the canter, and then I slid the bit a little bit because he was pulling some, and it just helped to get his head down. And he cantered just a couple of steps, and that was good enough. Good boy. We'll give you a break by the dogs for a second. Okay? It's hard work. They just got to figure out what do I have to do to make this lady happy, right? So he has the talent, he just doesn't have the conditioning. So I'm doing the conditioning and I'm trying to show him what he's supposed to do again. It's like you had this job, then you went to an easier job. You didn't have to do everything you were supposed to. You got to slack a lot, and then you went back to your old job. And they're like, that doesn't work here, buddy. Sorry. You got to do everything you used to do, just as hard and just as good. So that's what we're doing with him, is trying to get all his everything back. This horse has a wonderful canter. He just doesn't at the moment, and that's normal. So as I shorten up, he got a little bit fast. That's okay. Okay, so here we go. Half halt, shift weight, left leg canter. Look, he took right off. Now slide the bit, little leg. I'm leaning forward a little bit to help him pop his lead with canter. He popped it again. Canter. Good boy. Walk. Now he popped it twice. I got him in a circle, so it put him off balance. And then so I said, you know what, we're not stopping. You're not stopping until you're holding the lead, because I got to make sure he understands. If you stop when they pop that lead, guess what? They'll try to pop it more because they're like, I gotta rest when I swap my lead in the back. And then you're like, what is wrong with this horse? You taught him that when he does that with his legs, when he gets off balance, you stop. So he associated with rest. And he's like, I can do this all day long. And your vet's like, I don't know what's wrong with him. I think it's his stifles. And you're like, it is his stifles, but he'll be fine if you did the right thing. So now we're going to rest again because he did the right thing. And then we're going to go his better direction. So always go their worst direction first, get it out of the way, make yourself do it, and then go to the other direction. So that way if you're tired and you skip it, it's okay because the other direction's already decent. Or you don't have to do this direction as much. I just need, 2 or 3 canters that are quite good, and that's what we'll quit on. Okay, so now we're going the other way. But if you saw that last canter I did, he actually started, he understood, and he's like, oh, I'm supposed to pick up the canter from the walk. So he did much, much better. But I had to do it, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Okay, so better direction, here we go. Get his head down, he got his head up, make him walk. Half halt, shift my weight to the outside right leg. Canter. Right into the canter. Walk. Very big. What do I mean by big? Good boy. Very big stride. He immediately lengthened his stride and started going forward. I don't want that. I want it slow. Okay? We don't want to be dragged around the arena or anything. And this is hard to practice on the trail, so that's why it's always good if you have an arena or round pen to practice your canter in. Oh, you're such a complainer. Okay, here we go again. So half halt, shift the weight, canter. Good boy, walk. So better that time. It was smoother. The step was a little big, not as big, and I immediately started sliding the bit across his tongue as he was cantering. Now, when you do that, you got to keep a little bit of leg on them because if you don't, they a lot of times will fall out of the canter. So I did that because he's kind of pulling as he's cantering and he's not supposed to pull. So I don't want him to be able to hold that bit and lean on it, so I'm sliding it so he can't get a hold of it. Okay, I'm going to try a little different spot to canter. Half halt, shift my weight, canter, slide the bit, walk, sit down deep, hold, get their head down, then release. Good job. Good job, buddy. Good boy. So when you want them to come back, you always try to sit down deep in your saddle and hold them. Especially if it's a walking horse or a pacey horse, they can get trippy. So you want to canter and then not gait or anything. Come right back to a walk. And don't let them lean because they can trip. Okay, now we're going to try it again. So half halt, shift the weight, canter. Oh, good boy. Now we just lost our back end. But besides that, that was fine. And that can happen a lot because these horses are kind of lanky. They're big stifles. Now that was quite good. Now I have to think, can I get it again? Because stifles gave out, not his fault, because I don't want him to think that's associated with stopping. So I'm like, I'm going to try it once again because I think I can get it. But his canter was quite nice. It wasn't big. It was slow. He was listening. And he's like, you really don't have to do it again. I'm going to try. Easy. So look, he's speeding up. So that's a horse that thinks when you shorten the reins, they're supposed to go. So again, somebody teaches them that or lets them do that. So you shorten the reins and you just walk. That's the only way you're going to fit is you got to tell them, like, no, shorten the reins just means I'm shortening the reins. It does not mean go because they're associating that cue. So don't let them go fast right after you shorten the reins. All right, so we're going to try it again. Half halt, shift my weight, canter. Walk. Good boy. Now he's leaning a little bit as I came back to the walk, so what am I going to do? I'm going to back up. But otherwise it was a nice canter, and I've had him out for hours. I rode the trail. Actually, I turned him out and lunged him because he had a day or two off. And I rode the trail, I rode around the barn, and then I just rode in the arena. Good boy. That's a lot. but that's how we get it all in there. So otherwise, he did great today. I was very proud of him, especially dogs running out of the house. All that stuff's normal. He's going to be phenomenal.